Hello, my friends, and welcome to the show. This is the Friday show. I've got Christian Finnegan and Ophira Eisenberg, but last night I hosted a subscriber-only hangout where over 50 people joined us at one point, and I decided to record the show opening in front of those folks last night and have them engaged in the conversation, seeing as that the news that the Queen had just died. I did have to edit it, so there's a couple things that aren't perfectly transitioned. I had to take a couple things out, and that's partially why the show is up a little later this morning. But if you do want to just jump ahead to Christian and Ophira, that's at 27 minutes. But I think this is pretty good, and I'd like to do it more. But regarding the Queen, people were being honest and trying to be funny, knowing that we were being recorded. So hopefully nobody's offended by that. But if you are, I always want to know. standupwithpete@gmail.com. Okay, so here it is. Today's show, recorded in front of a live virtual audience. Pete Coe is there, so I asked him to get us started. Let's do it.
And now, the Queen is dead, but Pete's still here, and Steve Bannon's going to jail. Pete Dominic!
Stand up. That's right, Pete Coe. An introduction live in front of a virtual audience. Here we are at the Hangout, and there's over 40 of us here on Thursday night. Very happy to have you here. I've got Christian Finnegan and Ophira Eisenberg joining me on the show. We talked right before the Queen passed away, and so I feel like our jokes and that before she died are okay. We're not going to get canceled, but it's great to see all of you tonight, and I do want to get your take on if this is a thing that you're paying any attention to, how it makes you feel, and here is how it sounded when the BBC delivered the news today.
This is BBC News from London. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. In a statement, the palace said the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. BBC Television is broadcasting this special programme reporting the death of Her Majesty the Queen.
Yeah, and then they throw to music and they put all these photos up.
Taken from us too young.
Carrie Williams. So my daughter, Julia, said, "Oh my God, Queen Elizabeth died." Not kidding you. She said, "How?" And my other daughter, Ava, was right there. And it's just one of those opportunities in life when you don't get this opportunity to make this joke. So you just wait a beat and you look to make sure. So Jules says, "How did she die?" I look to make sure Ava's looking at me. Ava already starts to laugh. And I just look at Julia. I said, "Skydiving." It's just not that often you get to make a joke like that. But yes, Queen Elizabeth has passed. And Tina Wynn said, who's hanging out with us here tonight, she sent me a link from something that Dan Rather, of all people, wrote. And I want to read just a little bit of it and then get people here's reaction. And then we'll go to my guest, Christian and Ophira today. But Dan Rather wrote something thoughtful. He's up there himself. What is he, like in his late 80s, right? He writes, "With the death of Queen Elizabeth, we are forced to confront once again the reality that an era so vibrant to those of us who lived through it is quickly passing into the permanent realm of history. For those of us who were her peers, her loss carries a special poignance. Whatever one thinks of the institution of the British monarchy or monarchies more generally, there is no denying the role the late Queen played on the world stage. She was a constant in a sea of chaos. She was the living embodiment, majestic, sure-footed, seemingly divinely ordained of a great Britain that once had been and is no longer. She provided a sense of steadiness and continuity during her country's transitions. Her passing carries a significance far greater than her official duties would indicate." That's Dan Rather reporting on his newsletter. And I want to get your reactions. How do you feel, if at all? Some people are very upset. Some people are going to be glued to their television sets for the next however many days, the funeral, the procession, all the pomp and circumstance. How do you feel about King Charles? And any jokes that you have. It's great to see Cornell Woolridge. Haven't seen him in a long time at the Hangout. And before I pressed record, Cornell, you mentioned one great reaction, hard to beat, from one of the greatest ball players of all time, Reggie Jackson, who, of course, I don't know how to set this up. You kind of have to know, but if you ever saw The Naked Gun, and you should have, what was it, Cornell? And it's great to see you.
Yeah, so The Naked Gun is a brilliant comedic movie with Leslie Nielsen. And in the movie, one of the big plot is that somebody is supposed to kill the Queen at I think LA Dodgers game. And apparently it's Reggie Jackson. He's getting, I think, hypnotized or something. And the main character's got to stop him from killing the Queen. And so Reggie Jackson earlier today he tweeted, "Now we all know I was innocent. Amen. R.I.P. Queen E." And I responded on Twitter, "Mr. Jackson wins the internet today. That is all."
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, it's hilarious. It's a callback to something that a lot of people maybe don't know, but they're like, okay, what's that from? And then they'll see the movie and they'll see how hilarious that movie is.
Well, what
but
people
for
don't
me,
know is Reggie Jackson scheduled that tweet. So maybe he did have something.
For me, my reaction is I'm not going to talk down to people who are sad about her passing. That's fine. I'm not going to be sad about her passing. And I've always thought it was kind of amazing that a country that ran away from Britain has been so enamored for so many years about the monarchy that they ran away from. It's kind of crazy to me, along with, the bloody colonials. Yeah.
Well, I mean, some people in this country, I think a lot of people that see it as kind of ridiculous. I always have, although I'm not going to lie, I'm intrigued by it all. I watched The Crown season 1. I watched it and I loved it. I thought it was great. And I'm fascinated by it also. So who wants to come clean tonight and say, you know what? I'm sad and I'm going to watch the next week or whatever of coverage and transition. And I think they want to defend the royal family. Anybody want to go out on a limb? Aaron the Farmer looks like he's a big fan of monarchy.
Did you get my email? I sent you an email today when I learned about it.
Dear Pete, I may not come to tonight's hangout because I, Aaron the Farmer, am so broken up due to the passing of the Queen.
History right in the heart.
The Queen is dead. The Queen is dead. Thank the stars in the sky. The Queen is dead. Humanity will know freedom the day the last king is strangled to death by the entrails of the last priest. Well, that is a violent quote. And I would like to dig into that a little bit. What is your objection to monarchy and this royal family?
The whole history of it. Yeah, someone said, compared to the rest, she's all right, but it's just a bullshit system.
Well,
it's a made up crap system of inbred fucking losers.
Hey, you're talking about the Queen and her family. I mean, our generation relates, I feel like, to this family based on former Princess Diana and everything around her. There's a lot there with that. And the other thing is the Queen, I'm making shit up. The Queen looked good because, her dad didn't want to be king. His brother was king. And then he's like, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to go be with this lady. And they're like, all right, well, you can leave. And then George is like, well, okay, all of a sudden I'm king. I have a stutter. And so he had to make a movie with Colin, what's his name? Farrell.
Colin Firth.
Whatever. They're all Firth and their names are Colin. They're all handsome and they definitely test my sexuality. Nonetheless, so then the king, he then goes and smokes a lot of cigarettes and dies. And then Elizabeth is like, well, how old is she when she becomes king? She's like 16, 18. She didn't ask for the job. She gets thrust into the position and then she beats the Nazis. And so all the colonialism pales in comparison to, her fight of her generation, saving the United Kingdom from the Nazis. And she did it single-handedly, as far as I can tell. So,
yes, she was a sophomore in high school and fending off the Luftwaffe.
Yeah, well,
I think that's precise. That's what I read in my Houghton Mifflin book back in 10th grade history.
Well, that's my version of things. Also, that in The Crown, the season 1, her husband, what was his name now? Philip. He was fooling around on the side of the Queen.
The gatekeeper?
That continues beyond season 1, Peter. A little bit of
Who doesn't
Lothario
cheat
he was.
that family?
The whole family, I guess.
They all do.
The
They all
dog.
banging each other.
You think?
Fucking left,
Dude,
right.
Dude, they're
Just
inbred. There's
math.
no fucking rules.
Well, listen,
It's good to be the king or the queen.
you know, I've been recording this because I thought it would be a poignant, start to the show, but a lot of degenerates here tonight. A lot of people being very negative.
Hey, that's Senator Lindsey Graham.
Senator Lindsey Graham joined us.
Well, here's the thing. I know a thing or two about Queens, and I just wanted to pop my head in and say hello. I just wanted to extend my condolences. First of all, anytime you got somebody who ran a system where they kept other people in bondage, that is nice.
True? Yeah, that's not a bad point. Is it true,
That is.
Graham, that your safe word is special master? Yes or no?
Oh, no, darling, I can't tell you that one.
Oh.
But it is one word, and if I don't mind saying so, it's long.
Well,
Thank you, Lady G.
If anybody, not bad at all.
They're
Matt.
welcome.
If anybody has anything else to say about the Queen before I move on, I'm going to.
Pete, we won't know truly how we feel about the Queen's passing until we get the New York Times and CNN and the Washington Post. They have to get their people to the diners in Ohio, and we have to find out what those people in the diners, how they feel this is good for Trump. Then we'll know. Then we'll actually know.
Yes, that's a good point. My only issue and point about it was now we're going to have to suffer rolling coverage because it's going to get huge ratings. My buddy in Australia is a TV anchor, and he's like, obviously it's Australia, part of the Commonwealth. They go wall to wall, but so will CNN and I think probably Fox and MSNBC too, because it's going to get ratings. And meanwhile, there's, I think, a few other things that we could and should be talking about. So, Mark Anderson, did you want to say something before I move on to special masters and other things?
Hey, Pete, I have something coming in from the Patriot Voice about the Queen's death.
The Patriot Voice, is that not a white supremacist media outlet?
It's involved in the Forgotten Country Patriot Roundup QAnon convention that's going to be in Dallas in November.
I'm actually performing there. I'm opening for Kevin Sorbo.
Who books
Is
that?
JFK Jr. opening?
JFK Jr.'s headlining.
So they're reporting, here's their theory. The Queen died exactly 1,776 days after the first Q drop. Say what you want. I do not believe in coincidences. The scope of this operation is far more complex than we can even begin to imagine.
Oh, wow. Yes.
1776. Crazy, right?
No coincidence. Hey, if you work your way backwards with that kind of nonsense, if you name name a number, I could tie it to something, to anything. It's been 876 days since Pearl Harbor. What?
So I think that's a nice counterbalance to Dan Rather's kind words.
Yeah, thank you, Barry, for providing a little bit more perspective for folks that are listening at home that wouldn't get that kind of QAnon white supremacist number.
I did see a sort of moment today on MSNBC, I think, when I first heard about this, and I was like, oh, let's hear what they're saying on TV. And there was a moment where Katie Tur was asking whoever the British historian that they had on, and there was almost a feeling of so Charles is going to take over, and then what's going to happen? And the way Katie Tur asked it, there was almost like do we even need to do this anymore? Wouldn't this be a good time to just shut this down and button it up? Well, and that would be perfect, and it won't happen, right? But there was kind of that vibe of isn't this you go out on top? She looks great, everybody's sympathetic, and you just go, you know what? We're not going to do better than that. We're done.
I think that's how I feel right now. I don't want to talk. I mean, maybe I'll pay attention. Does anybody else want to belabor anything about the royal family or wish that we had a monarchy with the king, Elie Mystal? Who's with me? That's what I'm trying to get going today. But that's just...
I just saw something I thought was interesting. That was this family has been in charge of England since about 1550 or so, which means she lived somewhere between 20 and 25% of the entire modern monarchy, being almost 100 years old. That's crazy.
It's an old lady. She had good health care, apparently.
Yes, the best. It was all the children blood.
How's the adrenochrome?
It's being around gold all the time, sitting on gold thrones.
Yeah, colloidal silver.
Oh, Jesus.
That's hilarious. All right, well, moving on from the Queen, does anybody here think that Steve Bannon is not going to go to jail? All the legal analysis I'm hearing is Steve Bannon's going to jail. And here's the thing, like New York jail, and maybe for a little while. I mean, yeah, it makes him a martyr. I get it. But I said on today's podcast, very few people hate Steve Bannon more than I do, except probably the victims who he's assaulted throughout his life. I'm sure there's plenty of young women out there, including the ones that I saw him treat really inappropriately at Sirius XM, and they somehow rolled with him right into the White House. Anyway, Steve Bannon, any thoughts on the vampire Dracula being indicted in a New York court today by the New York, I think, Attorney General is at it, and this is the crime of taking everybody's money, telling him he's going to build a wall with it, and then using it to buy shirts.
I was going to
say, if he actually gets incarcerated, will that be like part of his plea deal? Is the number of collared garments he can wear?
He's going to wear 6 jumpsuits.
In incarceration.
Awesome. Yeah. So that a night
shower time is going to be very nice for him. They're going to fuck him up.
No. I don't know. He's a pretty Riley squirrely guy. He's going to be good at making alliances when he gets in there.
I got a serious question.
I doubt that.
Would he be able to do his podcast from jail or under whatever agreement he has?
No. The answer is no.
Well, that's good. It's just one drop in the ocean, right. But every word that he does not speak, I think, is good for our society.
Yeah. He's a terrible, terrible guy, and I can't wait to see him go to jail. So that was kind of good news.
There's plenty of Nazis in jail, but there's a whole lot of gangsters.
Yeah, but he's a gangster.
Listen, the Bloods, the Crips, and the Muslims gonna fuck him up.
Oh, I hope your lips to God.
I hope so.
I am not much for punishing people,
that's like saying we don't want to punish Hitler.
No, it's not. It's not like saying. I mean, listen. I want to punish Steve Bannon. I'm just saying, generally, it was just me trying to add some kind.
He's going to be found hanging in his cell, and all the cameras will be off.
Yeah, he's going to get the old Epstein treatment. The Epstein noose. We will see. Also, this week, of course, President Trump was granted a special master by a judge that he handpicked, who apparently has no business being a judge. You got confirmed after the election was over. Longtime member of the Federalist Society, across the legal spectrum. Everybody's like, this is a crazy thing. You can't do this. Anybody have any thoughts based on the analysis that you've seen and the significance of this? I mean, it really does suck because it's like this guy has always been able to litigate his way out of things, to procrastinate.
I have a question that maybe you can ask one of your guests this coming week. This is a blind spot in my civics, but how is it that one judge, of course, I understand they're appointed at the federal level. How can they halt this whole nationwide process? Just one person that, obviously was appointed by the former president. But I don't understand how that works. How can they just halt the process because they say, nope, we want this to happen? How does one person happen? And that's happened numerous times over the last
it's less about halting the process and more about granting this special master person, which does halt the process. This judge is allowed to grant this special person to look through the documents, and then that holds up the investigation, as I've heard a lot of analysts say, for a certain period of time. But it will. They're still gonna get the guy.
Yeah, understanding it's not indefinitely, but how does just this one action all of a sudden halt everything the DOJ is doing?
Hey, Kerry, let me add on to what you just said.
Thank you, Ty.
You can't just appoint some special master to look over documents that's that fucking classified. Like, both of them motherfuckers going to jail because the people in the FBI don't even have that type of a clearance. Like,
that's how classified they are. Nobody in the country has classification to look at.
I think it's weird that this judge is so in the tank for Trump. She selected the actual special master, and it's former Silver Spoon star and right winger Ricky Schroeder.
It's question.
Alonzo Bolden was nowhere to be seen.
He's still yelling at some guy who works at Costco.
Oh, that's right.
They're going to have trouble finding somebody who can read.
Well,
Ellie did say the Constitution is trash. You know, it's designed this way. Like, come on, man.
I don't know why that's got to be so controversial.
Right.
It'd be Trump's last excuse. He can't read, so it doesn't matter if they're classified.
He can read as long as his name is in somewhere.
Yeah, he can read the name.
As long as he's like, are they talking about me?
Well, my sister pointed out a really interesting point that I hadn't thought of before about how the whole cabal around Trump might be planning to get through this, and she thinks it's a numbers game. She thinks there's so many people involved, so many people complicit, so many people who have guilt or the stain of guilt on them that all working together, they can simply swamp everything, media, the justice system. There's simply not enough individuals on the side of good or law enforcement or in the Justice Department to move all these threads. And they're just playing a long game until they can get to 2024. And whoever is the Republican president in 2024 makes everything go away for everyone.
Interesting theory. So many people are involved and would be complicit or would at least look bad that they're just trying to get
start naming people, Pete. Start naming people. Include every one of the lawyers, everyone in Congress, every one of the judges that involved in this.
You got your
all the people on television, Steve Bannon, all the people in the 700, 800 people who are already in the justice system for January 6th. You start getting numbers that exceed the capacity to bring justice.
Yeah, I keep thinking we're living what they went through in the 1930s. Like, this is what it is. This is probably what the fuck happened.
But this is part of the point, though. Their plan was to starve the government and then drown it in the bathtub. We're in the drowned it in the bathtub phase of it by overwhelming the justice system and all sorts of shit. After he took out all the, reasonable people that were still in the government. We're being drowned in the bathroom with corruption.
That's a really good point about Republicans have always dreamt about just destroying government, even though they love it because they get all the contracts that they want from it. And but willpower, great point. Also, willpower it really bothered me that it sounded like he hit the D in drowning, which I used to do. Did anybody else hear him say drowning? I did. Also, willpower's voice sounds like the biggest stoner of all time. Say in your normal voice, I don't do cannabis.
I don't do cannabis, guys.
Well, without 50 kids screaming over him, it sounds sincere.
Well, I'm in the middle of a baseball practice. I just dropped another one, and then I pick up groceries and pick them up. It's crazy.
All right. Well, anybody else want to say anything about anything before I throw to my guests? Because I'm recording the opening, of course, to the Friday show before I throw to Christian and Ophira. Aaron?
I want to say Bill Barr came out and said this was a bullshit move.
Yes. The
most corrupt, heartless fuck after Dick Cheney admitted a few times now on national TV that this was absolutely unequivocally
Did you laugh at my joke? I played audio of Bill Barr. Did you laugh at my joke when I said the former disgraced attorney general and love child of Fred Flintstone and a toad? Anyone? I'm going to throw to Christian and Ophira. This will be it for the recorder part, and then we're going to hang out. But does anybody have any good news? It's time for good news. We've got over 50 people. There's 51 people hanging out tonight. And if you have even the smallest piece of good news, and you can share it in under like 10 seconds, who has good news? Even if it's, I had a nice meal. Carlo in Canada, good news.
I went to see Elton John in concert last night, and it was incredible.
Great.
That is awesome.
good.
He still got it. Thomas Hollander, your good news.
I'm going to go leave you guys. I'll come back later, but I'm going for an aerobic walk. I'm going to do a hit a pot and do some exercise. I'll be back later.
That is great news, Thomas. We will most likely be here and probably higher than you. Good news. Anybody else have any little bit of good news? Bye, Thomas. He really got out of here. Who else?
Pear season has started in the Northwest. Go out and grab your fresh picked pears.
That indeed is great news when anything is being harvested or blossoming. Kevin, did you have your hand up for good news? I usually don't go to you for good news. Usually I go to you for gray clouds.
Yes, that was a complete accident. I was actually giving a thumbs up to pears, but all I have is bad news. Only bad news.
No good news at
Cornell Woolridge.
Yeah, I actually have excellent news. I actually am now program manager for Citizen University, which is a nonprofit that focuses on building civic community all across the country. So that is fucking fantastic news. I get paid
got to talk about
to help
that.
build civic community.
That's awesome. That's been your goal and for a long time. Very, very
Absolutely.
Cool. We'll
Could not be more excited
that.
about it.
Derek Boyd has his hand up for good news.
I have a daughter on the way. I have not told my kids yet.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Right on.
That is wonderful news. You already have a baby. It'd be so funny.
Say Irish twins.
Congratulations, Derek. That's great. All right, folks, and there goes the crew. I'm going to keep hanging out with them, and you could be hanging out with us too if you subscribe to the show. But right now, it's time to catch up with Christian Finnegan and Ophira Eisenberg, two of my favorite comedians. It's time to wrap up the week and talk. We had a great conversation. I think you're really going to love it. Follow them on Twitter. Buy their albums. Christian Finnegan, Ophira Eisenberg, and a little from me right now. Say bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Yes, I've got them both back together. Christian Finnegan, Ophira Eisenberg. It's been a while. It's great to see you. Thank you both for joining me. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, see, I proved to those of you listening that they're here. And last week,
not representations. Okay,
not just they're not phoning
Tupac holograms.
Someday, maybe we could do that episode. But no, we're all in separate places as we always are. But last week, Christian and I talked a little bit about his vacation to upstate New York. And Ophira, you've just returned from Western Canada, where you grew up with your husband and son, who also just started second grade, and you were on a kayaking trip, apparently.
Yeah. Which I've never kayaked before. It's kind of interesting doing new. Sounds ridiculous. It's kind of interesting doing something totally new at a certain age in your life when you're just like, what is the new something I've never done before? Guess what? Kayaking for 8 hours a day for 4 days.
Wow.
That's a lot of kayaking.
Yeah. And we got there first day. You were in a pod of 10 people. I knew 3 of them because they were my family members, but not my son. It was all adults. And the person leading us, the guide, said, all right, so everyone's kayaked before? And I was like, I haven't. And my brother-in-law elbowed me and he was like, we said you have. And then I was like, oh, because I guess you're not supposed to go on that trip if you've never.
So he just set you up for failure and for dragging everyone down.
What
was the next moment like?
Watching people get into their kayak and like with fear and dread in my eyes as I was like, figure out quickly who knows the most and watch their every move and try to copy it.
That's smart.
That's where I was.
That's
at.
how I've led my entire life.
Right.
I guess next year's vacation, he's gonna be like, shut up. I told them you could fly a plane.
All right,
just
everybody,
increasingly dangerous things.
Christian, now you've done a lot of white water kayaking, I know. So this is
it's funny you just pause after white because I've done a lot of white.
White
in general.
things.
Yeah, you know a lot of. No, I've gone tubing a couple times.
Oh.
That's been the
so
extent of
fun.
my.
Yeah, that's different. Wow.
Yeah, a little different.
How many days?
4.
Okay, 4 days kayaking. Did you make friends? Did you go? Were you camping?
No, they all
you go
hated
to
her
a
'cause she was
lodge.
dragging
Yeah,
them down.
yeah, exactly. They were sort of like, what's going on there? Where you go to a lodge and then launch with this lodge. Now, when I say Western Canada, just because nobody understands geography of Canada, I'm talking the farthest west of the country. So there's Vancouver, then there's Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
The west side of Vancouver Island, where words like Tofino and Ucluelet are used, because those are the names of places. So if you were to look off as far as you could, there's nothing to see because you can't see anything that far. It would be Japan in one direction. And if you were to look off as far as you could in another direction, I suppose it would be Hawaii.
Wow.
Like you are, yeah. So you're with these, you're going through something called the Broken Islands, a small set of islands they're not inhabited anymore. They used to be inhabited, of course, by Indigenous people. And I've never seen anything like it in my life before,
So
but I was the slowest. There's archaeological digs, and some of them are being reclaimed by Indigenous people, mostly to not potentially re-inhabit, but just to actually bring other people there and tell the stories. And yeah,
it was
intense.
Was this trip? What was your relationship with your phone during those days?
Okay, so we were told there is no service on all the sheets you sign. And then, but my phone is also my camera. So I bought a thing to put in that's waterproof. And then we get to the lodge and they're like, guess what, everybody? Elon Musk just put a satellite like pretty much right above this. So it was better service on these uninhabited islands than I have in my apartment.
I'm triggered that he got the credit.
I know. Isn't that crazy? That's what they said.
Like he did that, as opposed to, there's a company now that has a satellite up there, but it's you should have tagged it with is that before or after he did blank horror thing? You should have not also done that. Anyway, I think
right, like Elon Musk's hands who deposited a satellite into the sky. Like you're right. They should have been like, we'd also like to thank Phil, Andrea, Maria played a big role in the.
He just threw it up there like a softball pitch, just underhanded, just sort of hucked a satellite up in the air.
Yeah, I love the bird huck.
It's a good word.
I mean, if there's more to talk about with your vacation, I love hearing about it. But I feel like you mentioned Indigenous people. You were in Canada, and I know Christian is really concerned. We're talking here at lunchtime about the Queen. You're from the Commonwealth, and she's ill. And Christian, I saw.
We don't know. What if she's just pregnant? We don't know. What if that's
the technology right now is insane, and they do need a better air.
Well,
yeah, she's gonna hold on. They're gonna do a Tupac hologram of the Queen just until whatever the youngest, whatever. Let's go
to our Commonwealth expert in London, Christian Finnegan. Is it
yes, right. We all know who loves the Queen more than the Irish.
Well, I mean, you seemingly aren't even that interested. You just tweeted.
No, I mean, Ophira is a citizen of the British Empire, not me.
Right.
I mean, that's.
Well, it's true. The Queen is all over our money.
Yeah.
All over it.
All up in her money.
So, where are you at?
We've been replacing the Queen with like loons and moose.
She's a 96-year-old woman, I think, and apparently, quote, gravely ill. So how do you respond to that? How does that? Are you emotionally, mentally affected in any way?
I have never felt that thing about the royal family. Never. I know that I've heard from comics that even the ones that went to Edinburgh recently saying that if you throw, say, like Meghan Markle, like whatever person that's obviously the most popular person right now. Someone said, princess turned podcaster. But any of these names, people go crazy. They have like extreme reactions.
Yeah.
But you say the Queen to me, 96 years old, and I go, oh my goodness, I cannot believe. What a great life, 96.
You could do worse.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any animating emotions about it, positive or negative, really. I mean, my wife was just saying earlier, it's like she's never not been the Queen our entire life. So there is that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That like what it's going to be afterwards. I'll probably be thinking more about the British monarchy over the next 6 months than I have in my entire life, just because of this shift and change. It'll be in the news more. But I wish I could say I had some really passionate feelings about it.
Because it's also like, in a weird way, don't you also just go, there's a royal family, like we're still doing this? Like there's just that weird side of it. Like, shut it down. She was great. Why don't we shut it down after this?
Canadian comedian Ophira Eisenberg calls to shut down the monarchy at the time of Queen Elizabeth is gravely ill. Wow.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of people, Pete. I'm desensitized.
Well, my only reaction is kind of what Christian was saying, is that while I'm interested in the history of the royal family and history in general, and I watched the first season of The Queen on Netflix, I'm just kind of almost like
The Crown. You mean The Crown?
Whatever. I'm turning into my father. The Queen. You guys watch The Queen? You mean The Crown did? Yeah. That's good.
Star Trek with Chewbacca.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is I'm like concerned about the amount of media attention that will now be paid to it. While meanwhile, there are other things. Like the planet is literally on fire or underwater. Trump has the nuke codes, midterm election, anything else that anybody wants to throw in. And then we're going to learn how the torch is passed. And then I don't know. Does it affect anything? You got a new prime minister over there. She's set up to succeed. She will go in there and cough on her. Is that what happened?
That was it.
Yeah, that was the handshake. She like somehow had like a poison like dart, like one of those rings with like a pinprick on the and when she shook her hand, she like infected her.
Why would she want to kill the queen? That's crazy.
At 96 years old, whatever you die of is natural causes. Whatever you die of is natural. It's a bullet in the head, natural cause.
The unnatural part is that you're still alive.
But the timing, that you got to question the timing of the new prime minister going all the way up to Balmoral, and then like the next day, it's like, the queen isn't feeling so well. You got to think about it.
If you're looking for metaphors, it's as a new prime minister, it's not how you want to start things off.
Right. Fair enough.
I met the queen, and then the next day, the beloved symbol of our entire nation died. Like it's not really the way you want to start day 2 of your administration.
Well, did you see yesterday? America's royalty was back in Washington. Former First Lady Michelle and Barack Obama, their paintings were unveiled, and what it made me think is, oh my gosh, it's been really long time since they were in the White House. A lot has happened, but it also made me feel like, well, at least Jill and Joe Biden are in the White House. Like I do feel a sense of relief every day that madman is in the White House, especially knowing that he took everything he could to sell it. He was going to.
I mean, it does definitely put into sharp focus the. Sorry, this is very coherent. See where I'm drawing you in by taking this long pause?
I like it.
Like to have the bookends of the Trump years in the same room, it really does remind you that this is a thing that happened in history. It doesn't have to be our future necessarily. That people just think like, this, Trumpism is going to run rampant over the country and it's just an unstoppable force. It's like, not necessarily. Things come and go in this country. And I'm not saying that the minute that Trump goes away, that Trumpism won't, metastasize into something even uglier or whatever. But it is just kind of a reminder. It's like, oh, yeah, there was an America before Trump and there will be an America after Trump, both the person and the metaphor.
You sound a lot like my guided meditation app.
Well,
yeah, I really like
in the same room together.
This doesn't have to be, right? You're just saying this doesn't have to be. We don't have to pretend that what this moment is representative of all moments.
Exactly.
Which I think is how, that was, that win, actually the loss of Sarah Palin in Alaska. It was just like, there's too many pieces that were like, see, this is it. It's a lightning rod. This is how it's all going to be. Do you understand, Democrats? And I was like, relax, everybody.
Yeah, even Alaska. A lot of people aren't buying it. It seemed like things are changing. I don't know. There's a lot of positive signals happening, and it all coincides in a weird kind of way with the fact that religious extremists are running the Supreme Court and took away women's rights, and they are the be all end all, which is why I often get a little pessimistic. Like, that's a huge reason as to why people are like, no, this is crazy. These people are crazy. Don't elect these people. They're going to, take half of the gender's reproductive right. That's my thought on it.
Right.
But
I like to hope that someone's like, oh yeah, guess what? Those people are not qualified. They should have never been there.
Right.
But that's like utopia.
Well, that's why, my argument that I would make, being a dumb stand-up comedian, not having any real qualifications to tell anyone how to live. If I were to talk to a Republican who would never consider voting for Democrats, but doesn't like the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the Republican side or whatever, what I would say is, like, if you want your quote unquote, your Republican Party back, which, is not quite as sane and rational as they like to imagine, but whatever, the quote unquote moderate Republicans, if you want that party back, the quickest way to get it back is to show your fellow moderates that you will lose with these people. That, no one's saying that if you vote a Democrat, or if you just sit out and don't vote this time, that has to be your future, your electoral future. It's like, you can vote for a Democrat in 2022 and or 2024, and then go back to voting Republican if you want. But the only, maybe the best chance of things reverting to quote unquote normal, whatever that means, is in a year like 2022, when the Republicans should annihilate the Democrats based on historical context of being the out party, and they always do well in the midterms. If they were to not take over the Senate or the House, that would really make a lot of sort of quote unquote moderate Republicans be like, all right, fuck this shit. We can't give our party to these people anymore.
Positive solutions with Christian Finnegan.
Yes,
I would like
there's
to,
a lot of the second, very positive. You've joined a gym. This is what's going on?
Why are you harping on this? I'm trying to get back on the horse.
I think you're making a lot of.
Not easy.
You're making some tough, healthy choices lately, and I just want to commend you.
What gym? What gym did you join? What franchise?
It's called The Rock.
Oh yeah,
it's
Rock, man.
Yeah, I think it used to be in a different place and had a rock climbing wall, but I don't think the current.
But they kept
location.
their name.
They did. Oh. And there is one guy who I've seen. I've only gone twice so far, but both times some dude who just one of those dipshits who just lives at the gym, and they think that somehow gives them like elite status because they're always at the gym. That makes them kind of like employees. And he has anti-liberal T-shirts. That seems to be his thing. The first one said, "Ew, liberals," and
that's it. Just EW liberals.
EWW, comma liberals. ..
That's a cafe press of his own making?
Yes. Oh, 100% for sure. And then the one yesterday, it said something. Oh, it said "Let's go, Brandon" with but in a sports font. And he was like a short, muscly guy, one of those Napoleon complex type dudes. And, whatever.
Speak of these T-shirts, my kid, we went to the Jersey Shore sometime in August, and my child was playing with a child on the beach. And then the dad came forward. He was like, "Hey, how you doing?" Very nice. And his T-shirt said, "Don't blame me. I'm trying not to raise a liberal."
Yes. There's a place in Lake George that sells all of these T-shirts, and the guy has more inventory than you've ever seen in any retail store. He cannot keep it in the racks. He's worth $1 billion because he sells them. And he opened another store in a seasonal town. Anyway, do you agree with the following? I told my daughters this the other day when someone came by with a funny T-shirt. She's like, "Dad, look at that." She kind of laughed. I go, "Listen, it's kind of funny, but I just want you to know, comedians don't like funny clothes or messages on T-shirts in general." But I was speaking for all comedians. Do either of you have an exception where you would see something that's an ironic logo or something? That's fine. Is there, funny T-shirts or where are we at? Christian, Ophira, who's first?
Go ahead, Christian. Go ahead.
Funny T-shirts, absolutely not. Amusing T-shirts, or just weird T-shirts, I am okay with. t-shirts that are just sort of head scratchers and just kind of strange, then I'm okay with it. But any t-shirt that displays a joke where you're turning yourself into a walking bumper sticker. There was a guy on a plane once I saw, and he was an old man, and he was wearing like a captain's hat, and then he had a sweatshirt. It wasn't even a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, and it said they haven't moved out until they get their stuff out of the basement. That is like a long sweatshirt, and that's what it read. And I just, when's go time for that sweatshirt? When do you wake up and be like, the world needs to know?
But that's like someone who just puts on a t-shirt. No one looks at a t-shirt and goes, my favorite. That's just someone who goes cloth on
shirt on body.
Yeah. That's what that is. That's not like a conscious choice.
I don't know.
I think I'm trying not to raise a liberal. That was a conscious choice. I think, liberals. That's that's not only a conscious choice. That's to the gym. Can't wait to wear this to the gym in Queens.
Yeah, it's a lot of.
Can you get him on the show?
Can I?
Yeah.
I'm sure. I probably could. I'm sure he has a lot to say.
I didn't tell you about my new merch shop. I'll sell anything. Anything. If you liberals is going to make me a millionaire, let's go.
Well, this is the problem that I'm saying, I don't mean to speak for you two, but I have, and I imagine you guys do too, that a lot of either conservative or quote unquote apolitical comedians don't have is just the merch thing. I cannot imagine selling t-shirts with like bits of mine on it. Like it feels just incredibly corny to me. And that holds me back. It holds us back. The just ability to sort of think like, you want me on your body.
Yeah.
That's a particular kind of mind. And those people are raking it in.
If you sold...
I'm just going to sell a t-shirt that says Ophira across the front of it. And that's it.
Well, that would
there we go.
But that would just look like a hot new designer, really.
Yeah.
It's a great name.
Or I would just be like some strange, town in Morocco or something.
I want a t-shirt. I would buy a t-shirt of either of you if you sold them after your show of you. It's a picture of you on the entire t-shirt. I would buy that.
You mean like families wear when like a kid has been in a drive-by or something?
No,
like a t-shirt with just somebody's face on?
No, it's like your back tattoo, Christian. It's like a
lower back tattoo.
I just think it'd be also, I've never heard this, like someone wearing a t-shirt of themselves. Like I should walk around with a picture of me on my shirt. I've never thought
that would be great.
I've never seen someone do that.
MC Escher style, and then that picture of you is a t-shirt with a picture of you, and then just goes further.
I love that.
Okay, last question for both of you. You're in the city, you live in the city, and I guess we shouldn't end on a sad note, but this is the last time we'll talk before September 11th, and it's the 20-something.
There's a left turn.
Yeah. What do you want to do with it? Or how are you 20-some years later?
I think it's done. Not that it's done. I mean, that sounds...
Whoa.
Wow. That's
what I mean.
Hold on. I have to edit that real quick.
What I mean is that I feel like with the 20th anniversary last year, that was kind of a big deal, as it should have been. It's 20 years. But now it sort of feels like it's something that we should acknowledge. But to me, trying to make it too big of a let's grind everything to a halt and think about 9/11, it almost feels like counterproductive, because there are people now who are 18 years old who have no memory of it. It's just this weird day. I don't know. It feels a little... I just don't think we should I don't think the world should stop at this point for
Do you think 9/11. In the future we should have the day off and we can say things to each other like, hey, what are you doing for 9/11 long weekend?
My friend John Corbett, who you remember, had a bit about exactly this. So he was doing in like October of 2011.
Oh my
how it's just going to be another day. It's like, what's the 911 weekend? And come down to Ground Bureau.
Wow. I just think that as a New Yorker, you guys live there, and I lived there and was there then and live right outside there and go there every week. I don't want to or need to relive it every year because I relive it every day. Like it's there with me whenever I'm in New York, especially, I'll say. It's there. I just don't need it. I don't like it. And I wonder if a lot of people who live through a tragedy need to be reminded of it every day. Maybe the rest of the country needs to be reminded of it or something. Or maybe the victims' families think it's, and everybody has right to their opinion. But that's my feeling. I'm like, it was horrible then, and it's with me every day. I don't need a day for it, I guess. I don't know.
Everyone really stresses the never forget. They stress it so hard. So I don't feel that same thing. Like I acknowledge and so. I mean, I'm not going to celebrate again till 25, just like Chris.
Well, there's something to.
It's hard. It's hard to be like in this and what are we doing? So I actually heard someone was inviting me to an event. And he was like, it just happens to be on 9/11, so we're calling it Celebrate New York. And I was like, okay. And that's also like, all right, I guess so.
Well, I mean, I have more thoughts about it, but
21 year, I just, at a certain point, something has to just sort of enter the architecture of your brain and doesn't have to be like at the forefront of our attention. I think, I mean, I say this as someone who lived here and went through it like a lot of people, but I don't think that we need to watch New York One and watch the reading of the names.
That's a specific thing. The never forget thing, though, as cheesy as that is, and maybe not appropriate for 9/11, it does seem to be a good phrase to refer to the Holocaust because the Nazis seem to be back so strong. It seems like that's why they came up with it. Like, hey, never forget, so we never do this again. And like, maybe we forgot because they seem to be back in a pretty strong way.
Brand new and unsure of why they're there.
I did want to ask you real quick before we started, and maybe we can have some fun with this, and then I'll let you go. You mentioned you were reading. What is quiet quitting? I don't know what that is.
Well, there's this whole thing about quiet quitting. So there's a couple definitions out there, but it's basically like people only doing what is exactly expected from them from their job, from their bosses. And, like clock at 6 o'clock, clock out, no extra emails, no extra anything. They just do exactly. And it doesn't mean that they're on the road to quitting. It just means that there is this sort of movement of, I want time for my life. I want time for my hobbies. And my job should basically allow me to do that.
It sounds like boundary setting to create a better, more fair work-life balance. I feel like you're about to shit on it.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm not about to shit on it at all. I mean, I agree. I mean, I said before we got on, I didn't really speak totally clearly. I said it's just a fancy term for being a shitty employee. And I don't necessarily mean being a shitty employee, but it's just like, it's like doing your job and not doing the extra credit, which was my specialty when I've had office jobs, and obviously with the internet and people being able to contact you constantly in this sort of hustle mindset that it's like, if you're working 60 hours a week, somebody else is working 70, this is the mentality that companies want to foster in you because Capitalism. They want you to feel like you have no time off and you have no personal life. And so, I think there's a sort of a natural backlash to that, which is, probably.
I also think like post-pandemic where people had much more control, if you were lucky enough to be healthy, control of their time, that they were just like, I'm not going back to this thing where I'm beholden like 24/7 to a boss. Forget it. Like it didn't work. I didn't get anything.
Yeah.
And so some of me think it's great. I mean, I like anything that sort of erodes the framework of capitalism a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that, and you hear all these companies, they'll be like, we're like a family here. And I will never work for a company probably any point in my life anymore because I'm 49 and who would hire me. But if I did, I just that mentality of like, we think of ourselves as a family. So, okay, who's the parent in this family? Because I bet it's not me. I bet you're the parent and I'm the child in your mind. And how about we're not a family? How about we're coworkers and we're all getting paid to be here?
I'd be okay if we were all third cousins.
Yeah. Does that mean we can have sex with each other at work? What are you saying? We're all family. That's such a great point. And you can't really say, once your company or a business becomes like over like 6 people and it's a hardware store with one location, you don't get to say that anymore. You've stolen that from the hardware store people. The diner.
Once you have an accounts receivable department, you are no longer a family.
Once you have more than one truck.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have a few trucks. Depends.
I think you could have two trucks. Two trucks,
where
and
we
that's it.
Thank you guys for introducing me to that. I had not heard of that. I want to learn more about it. And thank you for...
now you'll hear about it all the time.
For joining me, as always. Long live the Queen. All right. There you go. The Hangout. Little edited, but a lot of fun. The parts I think I share with you. And if you like that kind of thing, let me know. I'd love to do that again next Thursday. I'll organize it and edit it a little better and get better and better each week if we continue to do it. Or maybe we'll just tape Hangouts that are meant for airing, different ones. And I'm still working on launching a live show. I could use your help. You want to be on the Stand Up with Pete Dominic Street Team? Email us, standupwithpete@gmail.com, and put Street Team in the subject. Love to have your help, whatever your skill is, or if you have no skills at all, but just ideas, you love the show. We'll take it. That's all I've got for you this week. Thank you very much for supporting the show, listening to the show, sharing it, reviewing it. Subscribe at standupwithpete.com and join us at our Hangouts and even on the show. Thanks to all my guests this week. Thank you, of course, as always, to Pete Coe and John Carroll, and I hope you have a great weekend. Might be dropping something over weekend. Might not. You never know. Look for it. Love you guys. Be the change you want to see in the world. Bye-bye.
To let in some light, you gotta stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You gotta stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. And even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense and you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town, just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up. We got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up. You got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well, and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.